Alright guys, this will be my last video covering the Van Gogh mess, as well as the Yokohama World's Pikachu card that I've brought up in multiple different videos before. So this will be my last video. Don't worry, I won't make part 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever of it. This will be my last video on it. Hey guys, Slade, grade level collectibles, hitting you with the motto again. Driven by passion, motivated by nostalgia to educate people on the world of collectibles. Okay, hey guys, back again. Like I did on the little introduction I did, we're gonna be covering the Van Gogh Pikachu card, a promo card that came out in the Netherlands, and then the Yokohama Pikachu card that came out in Worlds 2023. Both these cards are a great case study. Great case study on the trends of collectibles. And the trends of collectibles, I would say over the entire... I would say specifically in Pokemon, that's all the knowledge that I kind of possess on Pokemon and why I follow these trends and why I have the things or why I do the things that I do with collecting, with buying, with selling, whatever, is because of these trends. But especially in Pokemon, these trends of, especially it's heightened by social media and by YouTubers. While you're watching me, you know, information passes like that nowadays, where back 10 years ago it wasn't the case, where you really like, oh hey, you know, what's with this card, like how did this come out, and cards caught people off guard and like, oh, I had no idea about this card and everything. But again, it's kind of just where we are right now in 2024 in collectibles, and I guess it's the same in sports, in you know, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. If a card is playable, if something sparks comes out of the news outlets or whatever, with, you know, the rarity or the releases, whatever, information is passed instantaneously. It's not to the point of stocks, bonds, whatever. That is called an efficient marketplace. We are not at that point yet, where it's instantaneous, where you have bots that, I mean, we have bots in Pokemon, yes, but you have bots that just specifically sell or buy certain cards, and you can't, optimization. It's optimized market, and in stocks and all that kind of stuff is very much optimized, where every single moment of the day you know what the sentiment of a business is by their stock price. The feeling, you know, it's not just all numbers and math. Oh, this company had a really good cash flow, they have really good debt to income, you know, P&E ratio is really good. Okay, I'm gonna buy some. It's very much a feelings-based market in the stock market on, okay, you know, let's say for Tesla, you know, for Elon Musk, you know, when he smoked some weed on like a podcast or whatever, Tesla stock tanked. It's the feelings-based on that end, but in some aspects it is... there are bots behind it that if it upticks this percentage or whatever, it very much is very volatile. They're like, buy. So Pokemon's not at that level yet, not at that level of optimization, but it's getting there. Like I said, information passes so very quickly. So when on PokeBeach and when all these other Pokemon news outlets or whatever released, hey, you know, Van Gogh's having another print run. You know, Van Gogh, they're releasing, you know, 150 to 250 cards per store in the UK, in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, there's about 1,000 of these stores. And when that news broke, you could see in real time on TCG Player, especially on whatever marketplace they have in the UK, the price was just just tanking, because I feel a lot of people were invested in this card because they drew connections between the full art Pikachu cards, Poncho Pikachus and everything, and how well those done over time. They're like, you know what, this is a great card to hold on to have a boatload in the closet. And I feel that a lot of those people that did that were newer into the game, newer investors, Pokemon investors or whatever, but newer naive people about that, because, you know, Pokemon, I feel that they are distant themselves from the market, like the market price of something, just because of, later in this video I'll talk about Evolving Skies, just because Evolving Skies is spiking in price, doesn't mean they're going to go out and print a whole bunch in it. But there is that sentiment of, because the prices are high, there's a lot more demand and people reaching out like, hey, when are you going to print more? When are you going to do this? Whatever. And so with the whole catastrophe with Van Gogh, where it was scalped and people trampling everybody at the Netherlands store, Van Gogh Museum, it really, at the end of the day, this release just had a very sour taste in a lot of people's palates, pretty much. And I feel at the end of the day, this release will be that. It will be the release that, people got trampled over, that, just another one, another tick on the board of just what this hobby has kind of come to with releases and with stores, and because all they see is like free tendies, free money, and all that kind of stuff, and they're like, oh, we need to get this bag, we need to get this money or whatever, and so they book out flights and they have people outside of the Netherlands store or the Van Gogh Museum, and they're buying cards off of people, and it just turns into this chaotic mess. So anyway, so again, going back to the Pokemon outlets, they released that Pokemon either reprinted or re-released. I think they did a reprint, a separate reprint of these Van Gogh Pikachus. Could be wrong, but it felt like, because it wasn't necessarily like any, any different, like, oh, this is a second, the whole Van Gogh Pikachu thing was supposed to be concluded in January. It was like done. That's what they released, but because of the whole outcry and everything, I think they did another print run. And obviously, Japan only has so many printers, and so it takes time to print, more cards and everything. So they released, like I said, 150 to 250 cards per store. It was really well organized, this next one, where stores were scanning in cards that only could go one per person. You had to have an account with this specific stores, and it really kind of tied up the loose ends of, okay, I never got the Van Gogh Pikachu, how can I get it, all that kind of stuff. I don't pay a whole boatload out of it. So at the end of the day, more supply was released, and because of that, the prices have been kind of tanking, and it's great in the aspect of, like, I don't even have Van Gogh Pikachu. I don't know if I ever will, because of the taintness of the release. But eventually I like to see these prices come down, because it shouldn't be like a Poncho Pikachu where it came out in 2016, and almost like seven years later, it has appreciated in value. I don't like seeing a card come right out of the gate and then boom, it just shot up like I don't even know, 50 times its value, or whatever the value is on it. I hate seeing that, because it, at the end of the day, this hobby isn't necessarily for just all the scalpers, or for the people that hoard it in the closets or whatever. Even though it has shown that it is a very good investment vehicle for if you want to buy 2 cards of something, and at a later date, if it goes up in value, you can sell it. But at the end of the day, to be a really good release, you have to release these cards to the people that will cherish them, will put it in a binder, and don't really care of its value. So it was much needed, the much needed supply of Van Gogh Pikachus. And like I said, when I first talked about it, PSA 10s were going for like $400 or $500, and even when they first hit the market, it was almost $1,000. Like first of them, some of them that hit the market, it was like $900, $800, even more so. And I think the first black label was crazy as well. But now PSA 10s are now, I'll show you the screenshot, around $200, and I feel that's an adequate price. I think there is further downward trajectory for this card, because if you got to think about it, the average Joe that bought this card, that will sell at whatever price it goes for, they got it at the release, they sent it in PSA, bulk probably, and they're waiting to get it back. And when the majority of those come back, like I said, I'm giving it like 3 months. then you'll see like the rock bottom prices, I feel. So I could see this card going all the way down to maybe $150. I really do. Even maybe less. And I don't think it would like a PSA 10. Raw cards are going for 100, but I think they have, again, a lot more room to fall, probably all the way down to $30, which that is, I would feel, the solid rock bottom price, because that is the amount of money you had to spend to get the card. I think it was 30. I don't know if it was 30 euros or $30 equivalent, but it was around that type of price. But anyway, so I feel right now, is it good? You know, it's better than it was to buy this card, and if you don't care about the price, then $200 is $200. You know, I feel it's a good value, especially from where we were, not spending $500-600 on this card in a PSA 10. But you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people draw connections between pop report and the price of something, and that has some flaws to it. If you look at the Charizard V promo that came out in Champion's Path, that card has been graded into the flipping ground, and it still sells, I think, for like 50, 60, even higher dollars, PSA 10, where it should sell for not even like, you know, not even $30, but because of its popularity and because of its liquidity, it being a PSA 10 as well as Charizard, it's going to sell for a little bit higher. So there are cards that, you know, PSA reports don't necessarily matter. It's the popularity of them, pretty much, I would say. But I would say, you know, don't take that 100%. Like, PSA reports don't matter at all. What they matter is the future projection of the growth of a card. And so if you have, okay, I'll give you a scenario. Me and Joe Schmo, we both have a card. Well, me and like 100 other Joe Schmoes, whatever, we both have a card. Both same exact card, PSA 10, whatever. You know, the market price is at $100. And so overnight, if that card jumps up to $150, maybe I'm not willing to sell, but I guarantee you about 33% of those population are willing to put down for that card, put down like, oh yeah, $50 profit or whatever, I'm gonna sell it. And so what happens, it floods the market. The market, you know, depending on how liquidable the card is, it can be swallowed up and that $150 is there, or it could stagnate, of where, you know, it's $150 and someone else is like, oh, I'll do it for $149. Or like, oh, I'll do it for $148. Oh, I'll do it for $147. And it stays there for a long period of time. That's what happens when there's a high population of it, where you have a lot more people who maybe are different walks of life, that, you know, a $50 profit is, they're for it. You know, they don't care if it goes up $100 or whatever. They're for whatever price movement there is, and it could not be $50, could be less or whatever. But that's what I'm talking about. Where if you have a card that's significantly less, let's say a special delivery Pikachu, I don't even know what the population on that guy is, but it's significantly less than Van Gogh. So when you have that type of card, there's a lot fewer people that have the PSA 10s, especially because the PSA 10s were a lot harder to grade. I think maybe 1,000. I think there's 1,000 or maybe less of the PSA 10, especially the Pikachus, and even less for Bidoof, obviously, especially delivery Bidoof. But again, you have a stickier price when you have less less supply. It's stickier of a price, where if someone, you know, all 100 people, you know, if it goes up to $150, they're all like, I don't want to sell, I think it's a little bit higher. So that price sticks, and maybe a few sell, maybe like 10 of those 100 people sell, that will stay at $150. And then over time, like, oh, I'll spend $170. Who will sell? And like, oh, maybe 2 more people. But it has improved, where if you have a lot more people willing to throw down for that little bit of profit, then comes the stagnation. And that is the downside of the population report. Not population report, but if there's so much supply, prices don't really move. There's no, unless there's a huge shift of there's tons of people coming into the marketplace, it doesn't really shift the card. So yes, that Charizard V will always sell for $40-50, but it's not really moving from that price. You know, it may be going up or down $1, but that's pretty much where it's set. And because there's just so much supply of it out there, and that's what I see with Van Gogh. I see a lot more downward pressure than upward pressure, even though it's a Pikachu card and it's full art and it's beautiful or whatever. So me personally, if I get gifted it, or if I find it raw and it looks pretty good to grade PSA 10, then I'll probably do that. And don't even talk about the PSA 9s. Oh Lord, I think the PSA 9s are at $100, the same price as sealed. There, one or two situations can happen. The PSA 9 is undervalued, or the sealed is overvalued, and I pretty much feel that sealed is overvalued. I think it has a lot further move downward it'll go, because PSA 9 and sealed doesn't make sense to be at the same price. It really doesn't, unless it's a modern Japanese whatever. Still, I don't feel it should be the same, because you have to spend money to grade that card. So anyway, that's a long thing of saying that, wrapping up Van Gogh Pikachu in a little bow of, sadly, with the event that happened, with the taintness in collectors' palettes of that release, I feel that has a negative effect on the future growth of this card. But also the sheer popularity and everything of Pikachu, I think over a long period of time, it will do well. It 100% will do well, but I don't think it'll ever outpace at all any of the Poncho Pikachus, any of the cards released that came before. Everything kind of moves together, some a little bit, a little bit faster than others, but at the same time, if you have a card that's only, all the Poncho Pikachus, I'm pretty sure they're at like populations of 1,000 or maybe 1,500, something like that. These are the big guys like the Rayquazas and the Shiny Rayquaza and the Charizards or whatever. They only have a population of kind of close to 1,000. But you're never going to get like a resupply of that. So those prices are sticky. They'll stick at those prices unless there's a huge shift in demand like we saw in the summer, where a lot of those prices went like ×2 up in price, because you not only had the sheer demand of, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction, the sheer demand of the Japanese consumers, where they were buying up everything, and then a knee reaction with the Americans, like, oh wow, why are these prices going up so high? So they start, FOMOing into it. So that's what crazy happened during the summer, where the prices went crazy. Unless something else happens with that in the future, those prices are sticky, and naturally they'll go up in price over time. So, long story short, Van Gogh Pikachu, I feel it's an okay, decent time to buy, but I see downward pressure later because of all the factors that I mentioned. So, going into the second card, so the Yokohama Pikachu card that was MSRP for $20 that came out in the Yokohama Worlds. So, fantastic news. So I'll go back to my notes that I did like 4 months ago. The sealed boxes in Japan, which give or take were pretty much guaranteed PSA 9, PSA 10. They were selling a pretty good price at that time for $160. That was a really good price back then for the sealed boxes. And the PSA 10s, they settled at $350. Again, when this card came out, which was like 4 or 5 months before this video, so almost a year ago, this card came out in like July or something. When it hit the market, it was like $960 for a PSA 10. You see very repetitious type of prices. If you just step back and you just see the entire like white border and see the entire layout, all these releases, they kind of only are in the high. If it's a really, really sheer demanded card and it's a free promo card, it's very, very unlikely it will break the 4 figures. It will break the 3 figures, meaning that it won't go past $1,000, obviously. Maybe in the first week it'll go like $950, $900, whatever, for a free promo, but after that it'll settle down, and with the Yokohama we saw it settle down to $500, $600 I still remember seeing Instagram posts, Instagram reels, or whatever, like, oh, PSA 10, $600, you know, the cheapest on the market, whatever. So about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, the price of those PSA 10s, they all kind of came back and everything, and they're, you know, it's a Japanese modern card, so it's going to do fantastic PSA. They were about $350. Well, now, about 4 or 5 months later, they have settled down to the recent solds have been $183, $190, and $200. Almost a 50% drop from 4 months ago, which I love to see. You know, again, like I said in the previous videos about the Yokohama Pikachu and everything, you know, MSRP, and then I did a whole video about this. I'll link it right here. I said MSRP still matters. It still matters. If this person spent $150 on this card, they would be in their wrong. They would be in a loopy mindset if they were going to sell it for $50 or whatever. They're, you know, because this card was MSRP, the people obviously had to travel to Japan, all that kind of stuff, but like you know, Espretta said before, the Japanese is the floor. They are the bottom of the barrel prices in Japan. So yes, you could have personally went to Japan, spent all this money to travel and everything, and bought the card, came back like, I spent all this money on travel and everything. I'm not taking anything less than, you know, the $500. You could say that 100%, and that would make sense. But you have Joe Schmosan in Japan, who, it was in his backyard. He went out there, bought all these cards up, and bought all, you know, there were some of them, I think, were in the Pokemon centers. Bought them all up, graded them all, and now that PSA is available in Japan, and are like, I, you know, walked to the event. I paid maybe $20 to get to the event. I spent $20 on this. Yeah, I'll take it. $180. Yeah, I'll take $200. Yeah, 100%. It's way above the MSRP of what I paid for or what I got into it. So, in that sense, in the first ownership, meaning that when you bought the card, you have a person that bought all these cards, or whatever, they're the first ownership of these cards. If then it trades or sells to someone whose base cost is like $150, $200, that's a different mindset. But right now, we're still in the phase of the first ownership of this card, and that's when MSRP really matters. Second ownership, third ownership, MSRP does not matter whatsoever. It doesn't. It matters about the market price. That's what it matters. And that's why there's future projections of certain cards that do really well over time. So anyway, so again, we're in the first ownership, and right now MSRP still matters, and you see that right here, clear as day, that over a year time, the price went from the peak of $960 all the way down to $183 for the exact same card in the exact same grade. That is the warnings I try to tell people. If you're in it to make a buck, you know, if you're into this and everything, and most people, if they're in it to make a buck or whatever, if they see the price, you know, trending down, they're like, I don't want to sell it, and they hold it. And if they're holding for $160 all the way to $183, it might be 10 years until it gets back up to that price. You know, I'm here for the collectors, even though I do have a business and everything. I'm a collector at heart, so I would hate for someone. I never want to sell a card that's, you know, 3 times its needed price just because I'm just gonna screw over this one collector or whatever. I'm here for the collectors, and I obviously need to make some type of profit margin. But, you know, at the end of the day, I know that, you know, selling cards to collectors at reasonable prices, obviously I will do well over a long period of time as a business owner and everything, or, you know, customers keep coming back and they're like, oh, he's got a pretty good price and everything, and he's pretty reasonable. But also, it's just future generations that will get these cards, they'll cherish these cards, like, oh wow, this is a really awesome, you know, I got it at a great deal, and then, you know, a couple years later, maybe gone up in price, like, oh, I sell it, oh, I got a little bit more money for it than I bought it for. So that's why I do this. That's why I share the information that I share, because of these trends. I may make a playbook in the future of like, hey, these are the trends, and trends are your friend until they aren't. That's a whole little saying in the stock market or whatever. But trends in Pokemon are your friend until they aren't. And I love to share the trends that I see and what I have either been faulted in the past of like, oh, I didn't follow the trend, or oh, I didn't see this trend happening, and so I got screwed over on here, there. I love to share those experiences with you guys because I don't want you guys to get screwed over and they're like, screw it, I'm getting out of Pokemon or whatever, I'm just leave because of the bad experience you had. Some of the, again, this is all just from experience, and I know a lot of people that either watch me or in the space that I would like to reach out to, they don't have that experience. They don't have they only see the day-to-day or month-to-month operations or sale prices of the, of the Pokemon on eBay or whatever, the Pokemon market. So that's what I really want to hammer home and present these trends. Like, hey, this has happened multiple times before, and will continue to happen multiple times in the future. So that is closing on the Van Gogh and the World's Pikachu. Okay, I forgot to say, World's Pikachu, it is a fantastic time to buy right now. Even though there is some downward pressure on it, I feel that it is a safe play, I don't know, maybe play, I don't know. But you see some bouncing effect in Japan over the raw cost as well as graded cost of this card. That it's holding steady at like $170 to $180. So because of all the popularity, just like I was talking about the Charizard V, because of the MSRP and everything, it has that, yes, it can come down further, but how much further can it come down? In the sense that I kind of maybe predicted it that it would come down to $100, something like that. I think that's a little bit not accurate, and that's a very, very high hoping that it would, because I thought the Pokemon would release another wave, whatever, but right now I think is the optimal time to buy, because 6 months ago you could buy the tins that had the promo in it, and you could buy that for $180, $190 in Japan. Where now on eBay, buy it now, or not buy it now, but like some auctions are ending at $180, $200, the same price that you would have paid for the card raw. So it just makes sense to buy it, not have that risk of it coming back to PSA 9. PSA 9s, I didn't even look up the PSA 9s of this card, but I guarantee it's probably near like $150, I would say, maybe a little bit lower, and that's just because the people don't want to sell any lower, pretty much. So, and that's where you're going to see the biggest drawback, the biggest difference of price with the PSA 9s, especially modern Japanese, where they're really just trying to sell it just to get rid of it, because Japanese people don't really buy those PSA 9s. They see it as inferior. Obviously, it is mint, not gem mint. So, and they created a whole nother grading company in Japan because they didn't like the standards of PSA and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother topic. But right now, I think that's what I'm going to end right now with this little update on the Van Gogh and the World's Pikachu. And yeah, if you have any comments, or if you saw this as insightful, or you have a different opinions, please share it in the comments. I'd love to, have a little chat with you, just in the comments and everything. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully this helped you guys out. So catch you guys in the next one.